As we learned previously, the famous portrait photo of Buzz Aldrin on the Moon is a proven fake. The sun is clearly shining over Aldrin's left shoulder, yet the portion facing away from the sun is illuminated and thus not darkened. We know that this cannot be the result of reflected light. To recap, the lunar surface has exactly the same albedo as an asphalt road. And as we clearly demonstrated, a surface with the same reflectivity of only 7% simply doesn't reflect enough light to illuminate a darkened object. Bill Kaysing first noticed this discrepancy in 1974. Since then, other researchers have found several problems with this one image alone.
Aldrin cannot be standing in natural sunlight in this image, because the surface around him is not evenly lit, as would be the case with light from the sun. This scene is obviously lit with uneven artificial lighting. The prime source of light is over Aldrin's left shoulder. The light is emanating from this direction. We know this is so because we can see what photographers call fall-off in the top left, the top right, and the left foreground. This fall-off effect is the name given to darker areas caused by lighting a subject with a non-uniform source of light. Lighting that does not have enough spread, as this false colour version particularly reveals.
In October 2008, YouTube user Unforgiven1 managed to obtain various copies of this photo from different sources. Two of the most prominent sources were the scan available from NASA's Human Spaceflight Gallery and the copy that Jay Windley displays on his website. The copy from NASA also shows this fall-off effect. However, in Windley's image, this fall-off effect is suspiciously absent. Just days after Unforgiven1 pointed this out, YouTube user from Germany, Amotai Yagala, responded to both him and David Percy. In his video, entitled "Moon Hoax Conspiracy Theorists Are Lying," he accuses Percy of throwing the original image into an edit program and adjusting the contrast to create the fall-off effect and thus mislead his viewers. To prop up his argument, Lagula used this copy of the image, obtained from the Apollo Lunar Surface Journal, and purported it to be the original version of this photograph. I am willing to bet that Jay Windley got his copy from the same source. Needless to say, the conspiracy theorists maintain that the versions showing this fall-off effect are indeed the originals. Who is being truthful with their representation of this photograph? To find out, let's have another look at this Aldrin picture. In addition to the copies obtained from the NASA Space Flight Center and the Apollo Lunar Surface Journal, we also have a high-resolution copy obtained from NASA's GRIN gallery and a low-resolution copy obtained from the Lunar and Planetary Institute's website. As you can see, the images obtained from the NASA Spaceflight Gallery, the GRIN website, and the LPI's website all share the same darkened surface areas as seen in David Percy's image. The GRIN image has been cropped at the bottom, but is otherwise exactly the same as NASA's spaceflight version. Now let's compare these with the copy obtained from the Apollo Lunar Surface Journal. First of all, the most obvious change is that Aldrin now has very little headroom, but we'll come back to that later. In this version, The background and left foreground are obviously immensely brightened. In fact, Aldrin's suit also looks brightened. The near pitch black shadow on top is near totally filled with light now. At face value, this fall-off anomaly appears all gone. However, as this false colour rendition reveals, a tiny isolated area is very slightly brighter than the surrounding terrain. This means that the fall-off is also present in the Apollo Lunar Surface Journal's image, though here, the uneven spread of light is not as prominent as before. Evidently, it seems that both versions of this photo show fall-off in some form, but only one of them can be the original. The question is, which one is it? Back in 2006, whilst I was browsing through archived newspaper clippings, I came upon the August 2nd, 1969 printing of the West Australian. As you can see, the Buzz Aldrin photograph was featured prominently on the front page, and the caption given reads, "Astronaut Edwin Aldrin's moonwalk is recorded in this picture taken by Neil Armstrong and released yesterday. Reflected in his face mask are Armstrong and the lunar module." Because this version was printed the day after NASA released it, this is as original as you are ever going to get. As you can see, the original image, printed in the West Australian, clearly shows the background and left foreground surrounding Aldrin to be in darkness. This darkness is obviously absent in the image obtained from the Apollo Lunar Surface Journal. If this is the original image, as is claimed by the propagandists, why does it lack this fall-off seen when the photo was first released? Another thing you may also notice is that in the original release of the photograph, Buzz Aldrin has more headroom. In the newer release, the top frame obscures the top of Aldrin's bliss. Why? According to the Apollo Lunar Surface Journal,
the simple answer is that when Neil took the original photograph, AS11-40-5903, the top of Buzz's OPS was at the top edge of the field of view, and therefore that the original image necessarily does not include the antenna. When the image was prepared for release for publication soon after the mission, it was cropped at the bottom and sides, and a black area was added at the top to give the released version visual balance.
Fine, I'll grant them that. There's nothing sinister about reframing an image for commercial purposes. But what about the landscape? The original release shows unevenly lit terrain, which is near totally absent in the newest releases. Why would NASA apply high contrast to one of their photographs, especially one with such crowning and historical significance? And there is no record of NASA darkening their images before release. With this in mind, we can only conclude that the ALSJ version has been intentionally retouched and brightened so as to bring up the detail and thus remove evidence of fraud. The retouched version has thus been purported by propagandists to be the original, when in fact it is not. This is yet another example of NASA enforcing censorship on incriminating details in their photographs. So I propose the question again. Who is being truthful with their representation of the image? And are the moon hoax conspiracy theorists lying when they say there is heavy fall-off in this image? Do they adjust the contrast to create this anomaly? Well, given that the darkened surface areas are indeed present in the image when it was first released, it can be confidently stated that we find the conspiracy theorists innocent of all charges.